Natural Habitat Expeditions is pleased to bring you this presentation today, Trek and Travel in the Republic of Georgia. And we're here with Olaf Malver today. And Olaf founded several years ago the Explorer's Corner, which is now Natural Habitat Expeditions. He is passionate in ecotourism and helps to promote sustainable tourism in developing countries in the quest to protect the world's natural habitats. Olaf is an avid outdoorsman, having climbed mountains, traveled by dog sled, and hiked in more than 80 countries over 35 years. For 15 years, Olaf has been a fellow of the exclusive Explorers Club. And now, as the CEO, Chief Exploratory Officer at Natural Habitat Expeditions, Olaf ensures that NatHab maintains the same spirit of true adventure that has driven all the great explorers for hundreds of years. And so it's a true honor to have him here with us. I know he just flew into Colorado today from Georgia, so we're delighted that he was able to drop everything and be here with us online today. Welcome, Olaf.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the very kind introduction. And yes, I flew right in from Georgia, and I am very excited about being able to share stories and slides from this amazing place in the Caucasus Mountains. The title of my talk is called Sublime Hiking in the High Caucasus of Georgia. And this is Georgia as the small country that is located in between the Black Sea and Azerbaijan next to the Caspian Sea. And it's sublime hiking, you'll see why. And it is Georgia not next to Alabama, but Georgia in far away from where people normally hike. So what I'm going to do today is to describe in general what we do on this trip and why this trip came about, and what you can do to get on it. And if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to answer whatever you might have, because I know it very well. I guided it myself 3 times, and my wife is the head guide on this trip, and she has guided it many more times than me, so we know it very well. So let's get on with our little presentation here. Yes, Georgia is a small country east of Europe, but not too far away from Europe. In fact, you can get there from major European airports, Amsterdam, London. The very good connection is via Istanbul, and you fly into Tbilisi Airport in Georgia. It's easy, and they built a new airport, so everything is great to go. Yes, what brought me to Georgia was a project 12 years ago where I worked for the Global Environmental Facility in the World Bank, and my job was to be the tourism consultant on a team which established national parks in Georgia. And one of the national parks we helped establish is a very big one. It's one of the biggest, bigger than most parks in Europe, and it's called Shetty National Park. So this is Shetty National Park where my arrow is. And that is where most of the trip will take place. I found through that work that the country is practically undiscovered. You see, Georgia was a part of the Soviet Union, then it broke off, and for many years it kind of worked by itself, a little bit of a forgotten corner in the southern part of the Soviet Union, and it has just opened up. So what this trip entails is basically a trip to a new hiking destination, to mountains that are bigger than most of the European Alps. In fact, the highest mountain in Georgia is higher than the European Alps. The Caucasus consists of 2 chains of mountains. One is the northern one, which separates Georgia from Russia, and then the southern one, which separates Georgia from Turkey, Armenia, and down here in Azerbaijan there's no mountains, but at least the southern Caucasus Range is right here. We will focus on the northern Caucasus Range, the main Caucasus Range, because it's the most spectacular. Now you want to add a question I always get, apart from where is Georgia, is how safe is it in Georgia? Well, I have good news to tell you that it's a really safe place. The recent government of Georgia have made this a very safe and comfortable place to go. So if you are ready to go kind of on the edge but in a safe way, then this is a great destination for you. So specifically, the trip that is designed is a classic loop. I like to design loops. Most of our trips at Natural Habitat Expeditions are loops, so you see more and you follow a line of discovery. We will start in Tbilisi, and then we will drive up to a city called Shetty through the mountains, and from there we will hike from Shetty close to Shetty, across a pass, the Atunda Pass, and then we'll go get into the national park of Shetty, which you saw before, and hike down to villages like Datlo, through the very beautiful valleys here to Omalo, stay here for a day or two, and then come back by car down to the lowlands, here to Laliskuri, where in fact my family lives. And this Laliskuri this little city of Laliskuri is located in the lowlands, just bordering the high white mountains of the Greater Caucasus, and it's local. And Kakheti is in fact the Napa Valley of Georgia. So what this trip is all about is seeing the cultures of Tbilisi and other places, putting in a great hike through wild mountains, and then come down and have a good drink and wine and learn about wine in the Napa Valley of the Caucasus. So there's many elements to this trip which I think complement each other very well. So we start in Tbilisi, and we found a great little hotel there, Hotel Kopala. And you know, it's most hotels now have been restored in the city after the collapse of the Soviet Union, and it's quite lovely to sit there on the balcony and have a drink and look at the newly restored churches in downtown Tbilisi. Tbilisi is a very old town. It was founded around 300 after Christ, and has a lot of history. It's located on the western end of the Silk Trade route, so it was an old caravanserai there, and a lot of great hot tubs and old buildings, and everything has been mixed up with new forms of architecture. So it's really a great trip, a great place to discover with our guide that will take us to some of the key places on the first day when you arrive from wherever you come from. They have just built a new cathedral, the Samovar Cathedral, and if we are lucky, we might even hear some of the singing that the local male polyphonic singers perform in these beautiful churches. Georgia is filled with religion, filled with beautiful churches, chapels, and monasteries, and you'll get a little bit of insight on this trip of what we are talking about. We'll not spend our whole trip going church hopping, and you will not be churched out, but I think you need to at least find and discover the historical background of Georgia to enjoy this trip a little bit more. Then the adventure starts, and in fact, driving, as you can see from the left picture, is quite an experience. To drive up to the mountains, we do that in small four-wheel, safe four-wheel jeeps, and it is just a wonderful and safe ride, but for sure an adventure. Sometimes during the year, very early on in the season, we even have snow on the track, as you can see on that Russian jeep stuck on a glacier on the way to Shetty. So then we get up there, and you will be surprised how few tourists you will meet. We started this trip about 5 years ago, and although it has become a little bit more popular by the first wave of backpackers, we rarely see other people on our trek across the Caucasus. The geology is very mixed. We have this kind of morphology and geology which is more dolomite-like, and then we go over to more granitic rocks later on in the trip. So for a geology enthusiast, this is a great thing. And also for the flower enthusiast, the Caucasus Mountains have many, many endemic species of flowers, and we will be lucky to camp and hike in these flower beds. So that's the typical terrain on the trip. It's grassy. It's surrounded by peaks with glaciers, and I'll show you some even higher mountains such as these. This is early in the season, and look at this. You're looking here north towards the Russian border, and there they all are, the undiscovered, beautiful, majestic peaks of the Greater Caucasus Range, and that is where we're going to hike. Now, we are not hiking in late June where this picture is taken. Our hike takes place in August and September, because that's when we have less chance of having snowfalls, and that's also when you start seeing the beautiful colors of the beginning fall in the mountains. One thing about this trip, because everybody asks me how difficult it is it, and that's fair enough, is that we actually are using mountain horses, Shettian mountain horses, to carry our gear. All you need to do is to have your backpack, your light backpack with your camera and your sweater and your water bottle. These horses will take everything else. And this picture, particular picture, is taken on the crux of the trip. Over there on the, over here where the arrow is the Atsunta Pass. And that is reached after 2 days of hiking on the traverse that we are doing. It's a pass in 10,500 feet. So it is very doable. And that is the tough day. The tough day is 6 to 8 hours of hot hiking. And as soon as we get over that pass, it's all downhill and a little bit uphill, and it's just a leisurely hike through the mountains. You can see we are talking about some really amazing mountains we see on the hike. Here is Mount Elbrus on the way to the Atsunta Pass. And again, look at those wonderful wildflowers covering the grass all over. Here's a picture from the Atsunta Pass taken at a freak snowstorm that happened once on 1 hour trips, and it was a little bit early in the season. So we came up that ridge, and during the night I heard this splish splash on the tent cover on the top, and I woke up in the morning and there was snow, and everybody got a chance to do a little exciting adventure and hike up the pass in the snow. And I remember the horses went first here, so the horses did all the work, trumping a path through the snow. This snow made it pretty, it made it adventurous, but we cannot guarantee such a great adventure every year. And here we are on the other side of the pass. In fact, here's the pass coming down, and then the hike becomes much more leisurely and not so steep, and this is where people really get into the rhythm and enjoyment of the trip. Now, the horses take our packs, but sometimes, and it is a mountain region, we get mountain weather, and we might get some rain, and the creeks might get a little swollen. So therefore, we bring the horses also to take people across creeks and rivers, so you don't have to walk over it yourself unless you want to, and also can get dry-footed across the creeks. So look at that. That is the essence of Shetty. Fun traveling in groups, easy hiking, easy to medium difficult hiking, I would say, and lots of colors. But in addition to that, Shetty used to be inhabited by mountain tribes, and they used to have these wonderful stone towers, which is very, very special for this Georgian mountain range. There are different mountain towers in different mountain areas of Georgia. And in Shetty, we will pass by these stone towers, which were used as family fortresses against invasions of Mongols and Russians alike. So you'll see a lot of these kind of wonderful constructions along the way. And a part of the World Bank project that I worked on also established these wonderful bed and breakfast accommodations in these villages. Another picture of how wonderful the landscape is. And here you see a a deserted village with old stone towers, and of course there'll be a lot of stories to tell while we walk past these old villages, some of them that were built hundreds of years ago. We eat in plain air, as we say. You know, we on the trip we have a cook and two cook assistants and great spreads every day. We want our people to be well fed because you'll need it for your hikes. Our equipment, and we are probably the only outfitter in Georgia that works with modern Western equipment. We basically have North Face tents and Cascade design tents. If you want single tents, we can provide that as well. And we also provide the sleeping mattresses for people so that you have a comfortable way to sleep on these grassy meadows. And of course, good tents is good should you get a little bit of an evening shower in the mountains. But apart from camping, and we do that 3 or 4 days on the trip because there's simply no accommodations when we get high up over at Sunda Pass and 2 days thereafter. But then, as I said, we get into these old ancient village stone tower villages, and there are these restored bed and breakfast places where we can have showers, where we can eat, and where we can party with the local people. It's great fun. In Omalo, the capital of Shetty, a new guest house has been established with World Bank grants and loans, and look at how nice and comfortable it is up there. The other thing, as I said before, is that Georgia has a big tradition of drinking, either from solid, big horns, or from small, gnarly glasses filled with sharp cha-cha. And the Georgians are really fun to be with, and that to me, that's really one of the great things about Georgia. And the people there, they're still a little bit, what shall I say, tourist naive, so they are completely hospitable, and they just want to share their wonderful drinking and eating traditions with you. And trust me, they are really great. The accordion comes out, men and women start to sing, the full-on spread comes out on the table, and white wine and cha-cha just makes us all having a good time and mingle with the local people. You don't have to drink, but it is just a natural, and it's a lot of fun. Then we get down to the wine country, the Kakheti, the Napa Valley of Georgia, and there my family have restored their house, and we have space for 12 to 14 people in my mother-in-law's house. We have nice toilets and great rooms to stay at, and you will be able to share our family wine and the jam and all the good stuff that we have made during the winter. And we even get water buffalo yogurt with hazelnuts and walnuts as a surprise meal in breakfast time. And what I particularly want to show you is that we do a hike down in Kakheti across the mountains. There's small lowland hills there, but a wonderful hike through the forest there. And we will end up in my vineyard that has been planted this year, and no, last year, and more to come. And we will have a great open air picnic in front of the vineyard, and I'll teach you everything about how to grow wine, how to grow Georgian wine, because it's just a really magic thing. Having said that, Georgian wine was the first wine country in the world. The first traces of wine was found in Kakheti about 8,000 years ago, and Georgia has about 500 different varieties of grapes. So this is where it all started. So they have the grapes, and I make wine out of grapes with names such as Kisi, Katsiteli, Sapiravi, and so forth. Very unusual grapes, but some great wine, and the wine technology is getting improved. And on our second day in Kakheti, we will take you on a wine tasting tour of some of the professional modern wineries that have now popped up after the Russian wineries have closed down. And we will taste the good drop and visit some of the great sites in Kakheti as well. So this trip is all about fun hiking, discovering a new trekking destination, having fun while doing it, drinking, just a great frolic in the Caucasus Mountains. So come with us, and we'll show you what I'm talking about. Thank you so much. And I would love to take any questions you have and see if I can cover them with my deep knowledge of the place. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you, Olaf. That was terrific. So I'd like to invite our audience members to type their questions in now. If you need a reminder, just open the meeting room control panel that's over on the right by clicking on the orange rectangle with the white arrow. And once it's open, you'll see the question box there. Just type your question in, and I will do my best to get all of these submitted to Olaf. So let's start here, Olaf. This one came in pretty early on. What level of fitness is necessary for these trips?
Okay, that's a good question, and I would say you should. It's a medium hard trekking trip in the sense that we hike between 4 to 8 hours a day. But the key here is that that you don't have to have a heavy pack on, and also if you for some reason get tired one day, hey, hop on a horse and enjoy a little Shetty horseback riding. There are 2 days that are relatively long, but then it starts petering out to be easier and easier. And when we hike, often the group consists of some stronger hikers and some not so strong hikers. Don't be afraid of that. We can spread out the whole caravan, so to say, so that the main guide goes first with the horses, and then the second guide and assistant guide goes in the back. And sometimes this caravan can spread out maybe a mile. So you don't have to feel that you have to push on. We really have full day to do all this, and we have had very, very few people who have thought that this trip was beyond their means. It would be good if you have done multi-day hiking in places in the Alps, if you have done hiking trips in the Himalayas, of course. But again, the highest spot here is only for 1 day over a 10,500 feet high pass. So I would call it medium hard trekking.
Okay, good. And this seems to be a popular line of questioning. I've got a lot of follow-up questions for you on this. There's a question about how many kilometers of walking would be represented on an 8-hour, I think you just said 4 to 6 hours were most of the hikes, but how many kilometers would you cover in that period?
Well, it certainly depends on the terrain. I would say between 8 and 15 kilometers a day, but of course the steeper it is, the less kilometers you cover.
Sure, that makes sense. Now, what about personal equipment? What sort of personal equipment might be needed?
Yes, that's a very good question. I would say that the main piece of equipment that you need to bring is a sleeping bag, and that can be a good 3-season or a light 4-season sleeping bag. We will provide the sleeping mattresses, and we provide all the commissary, and then you need to have a pair of shorts, and you need to have your rain gear and normal hiking boots and a couple of extra socks. So it's basically normal hiking mountain gear. We will of course supply you with a deep list of equipment that we suggest, and I love to talk to people about what kind of equipment they could bring and suggest brands and so forth. So there will be a whole dialogue before you come to Georgia between us and you on how to bring the best equipment for you on the trip.
All right, thank you. I think this question is getting to a concern about maybe altitude sickness. So there's a question here about whether you stop at any time at the upper level before beginning the hike.
Yes, so 10,500 feet is kind of at the lower limit of where people normally start to get altitude sickness. If you're extremely prone to altitude sickness, this trip basically starts in Tbilisi, which is at about 2,000 feet. Then we drive up to about 6,000 feet, and the next day we hike to 8,500 feet, and the next day we go over the pass. So we do this very gradually. It's not like we go from 0 to 10,000 feet in one day. We have never had any people that have had altitude sickness on this trip. So
oh, good. Okay.
Sign. Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You talked, I think, a minute ago about being able to hop on a horse and ride on the horse for part of the trek. So there was just a question about that. That is what you said, wasn't it?
That is correct. We have horses, and although we cannot have the whole group sitting on horses at the same time, we have a couple of horses for, let's say we are a group of 10 people. We'll have 2 horses that can shuttle people back and forth, and if somebody wants to hop on a horse for a few hours, then we can do that. So there is some kind of a leeway for that, no problem. And we also bring the horses for safety. Let's say, and that has also never happened, that you twist an ankle or have some sore spots. It's always safer to have a horse that we can use for transporting people. And these horses are not wild Arabian stallions. These are solid, calm mountain horses, and we have the best of saddles that people can sit on.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about the weather. That's also a popular concern. So what would the temperatures be like in August?
So the temperatures up in the mountains is basically mountain weather. So that will be from 40 to 65. As I said, we had a freak snowstorm where it suddenly dipped down to 30 degrees Fahrenheit, but that was early in the season. During the period we run it, which is in August, we rarely get below 40, and that will be at night. And then during the day it gets up to the 60, maybe even 70 if the sun is strong. Now, having said that, in the lowlands, when we get to Kakheti, after having hiked across the Caucasus Mountains, it can get warm down there, and they can even get down to 90 degrees Fahrenheit down there. So you really will experience lots of different temperatures on the trip. But as I say, there's nothing called cold weather. There's just called good equipment. Okay, so again, when you bring the right gear, you will not have any problems being cold or warm. That's for sure.
Oh, good. Okay, that's good. Oh, what about food? This question, says, we've heard that Georgian food is wonderful. Is this still true in the mountains?
Absolutely. That's why we bring the horses, because they can take a lot of the fresh produce with us. And remember, there are 4 days on this trip where we cannot resupply, only 4 days. So of course, on the first and the second and the third day, we still have fresh vegetables. The tomatoes are fantastic. The eggplants, the fruits. I mean, Georgia is really a garden of God. If you put a stick in the ground, a tree will come out, and the fruits and vegetables are just amazing. And we will bring that on the trip. There's one half day, where we cannot really serve any good fruits and vegetables. But then that evening, we will then reach a little jeep trail where we bring up more fresh food to you. So it's only one half day where there will be no fresh fruits and vegetables.
Oh, okay, great. What about a water filter? Is it necessary to bring a water filter?
No, you should not bring a water filter. We boil all the mountain water we have, or take water from very clean springs. Not a problem at all.
Okay, good. All right, I think one of our other more popular questions is the maximum number of people that you will take in one of these treks.
Yes, this year in 2013, we are taking maximum 14 people. I like medium-sized groups, maximum, and it's not really a problem on this trip to take 14 versus 10, because the camping is abundant on those nights we camp. And what often happens when you have a group like this is that it spreads out, so we don't feel like we are crowded by ourselves, because, as I said, the whole snake of the expedition will spread out, and some people even like to sometimes trek alone and not be in the company of too much, and there's room and space for that. I know the feeling that sometimes you just want to be psychologically by yourself when you hike, and that is a possibility as well here.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And having said that, we will run the trip with a minimum of one person. That has never happened. We normally have filled up trips. But when you sign up, you can be guaranteed that you're going to go to the Caucasus Mountains and have fun with us.
Okay. That's very good. And what is the average age for a traveler on this trip?
The average age, this is a good question, is between 40 and 80. We have had strong people in their early 80s, and we have had not so strong people in their late 30s. So it's really not about how old you are. It's more about what your experience is, and most important, what your attitude is. But I would say that if you took a mathematical bell curve of this whole thing, that the average age will be around 50 to 55. So these are people that have traveled the world and now want to really get into the wild places and the undiscovered places. So they have had some years of experience on their back. These are people that are curious. These are people that are just have a great attitude to travel in groups and have a great spirit. So that's that.
Oh, good. Okay. So another popular question is, how do you get there and how do you get home? So could you talk about where one would fly into and then how they would get home?
I alluded to it in the beginning of the seminar. Maybe some people joined a little bit later, but the airport to fly to is Tbilisi Airport. That is the capital of Georgia, and there are lots of connections. You can fly Austrian Airlines, you can fly British Air, you can fly Lufthansa, you can fly Turkish Air, all connecting through other European gateways such as Istanbul, Vienna, Munich, London, Amsterdam. So it's just a question of finding one of those European gateways and on you hop to Tbilisi.
Okay, very good. And I think we might also just need a recap of how many days and nights this trip is. There are a few questions about that.
Yeah, it's a total of a 12-day trip. We have found that is the optimal time for this trip. And I also recommend people, if they have to go all the way to Tbilisi for a 12-day trip, we will certainly advise you to do other things in the area. And it's very easy to hop over to Baku in Azerbaijan, which is worth 1 or 2 days, or to Armenia in Yerevan in Armenia, in the neighboring country. That might be fun for you to see more of the Caucasus countries. Or what some people do is they fly from the US and they fly in to Istanbul, and then they spend a few days to jet lag and explore wonderful Istanbul, and then there's a very, very short connection from Istanbul to Tbilisi. So in that way you have maybe 12 plus 3 to 4 days, so you have full 2 weeks of vacation time in the area.
Good. And well, while we're talking about geography, there's a question here about how far this trip is from Mount Elbrus.
This trip is very close to Mount Elbrus. However, Mount Elbrus is on the Russian side of the border, so it's very complicated to connect the two. You have to, you really have to do a lot of flight gymnastics in order to connect the two with an airplane. You cannot drive from Vodi, which is a city close to Mount Elbrus, and into Georgia. You have to go back somewhere in Russia, then fly to Ukraine, then take a flight from Ukraine to Georgia. Now Mount Elbrus is popular because it is the highest peak in the Caucasus Mountains. In my opinion, It is not a very pretty mountain, but it is the highest, and some people like to bag big peaks. The really beautiful Caucasus are actually in Georgia, in Shetty, in Svaneti, and as you can see from the pictures that I showed you, those are amazing peaks that are on the Georgian side.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Wow, speaking of logistics, there was a question here about whether a visa would be required for this trip.
Not at all. The Georgian government has made it, again, very easy and very safe for tourists to come to the country. All you have to do is to have a passport which it will not expire the next 6 months, and you get a nice stamp. And actually last year, what you got when you went to Georgia, you even got a little bottle of wine in the customs to welcome you to Georgia. So they're really trying to make it easy and plentiful for everybody to go there.
Oh, that's really great. So we just have a couple more questions here in the queue, so I'll do one last call for questions while we are going through these. Okay. There's a question here, back to the horses. If someone has no equestrian experience, but they're having a tough day, are they going to have any trouble riding these horses?
Not at all, as they are very docile and easy. And if they are not comfortable being alone with a horse, we will have one of our horse wranglers walk in front with the horse and just lead the horse with the client that might not like to be alone with the horse. You do not need any experience. They are very sure-footed and very calm mountain horses.
Oh, great. Thank you. All right. Let's see this question. How far are you from medical facilities if there's an emergency?
A phone call away. There is a little clinic in Omalo, and we have very good connections to the helicopter pilots that fly up here in the winter. So we bring a sat phone, and we have cell phones as well. And if anything happens, boom, you're back in Tbilisi in a very modern hospital in 2 minutes. Not 2 minutes, but in less than an hour. It will come, the helicopter will come in an hour, and so 2 hours from your accident, you will be on your way. Our guides are all trained in CPR and wilderness first medicine, so we definitely take safety like that very, very serious.
Okay, terrific. I think we'll make this our last question. We just had one more come in. What is the language in Georgia?
It's Georgian. It is, yeah, well, that's a good question because Georgian is a very unique language that I'm still struggling learning. They have their own alphabet even. There are only 14 alphabets in the world, and one of them is Georgian. So it is quite unique, and we will certainly teach you how to say cheers, which is gaumajus. I have to say one thing. I am very impressed by the quality of questions and the enthusiasm in all these questions. So it's been really fun for me to answer all these.
Yes, they have been really great questions. This has been a fascinating presentation. You have some nice compliments here too, by the way, that I'll share with you. So I think we're done with questions, and I'll just turn it back over to you now, Olaf, for anything else you might want to share before we sign off. Yeah,
so yeah, I hope, of course, you will join us someday on this fantastic destination, which is really the on the edge type of hiking in a new area that is very doable. The way we do it here at Natural Habitat Expeditions is we want to have a conversation with you, and my email is olafm@nathab.com. You can see the info@nathab.com on the screen. Mine is OLAFM. My last name is Malver @nathab.com. So what I really love is to talk travel and talk to you about all these things so we can get you started well on this fabulous adventure. So thank you very much for everybody to join us here on this webinar, and I hope to hear from you very, very soon. Thank you.
Oh, my thanks as well. And we will have this up and available, the replay, in just a few days, and we'll send that out to everyone so that you know when that is available so that you can listen to it again. And then, Olaf, I think you and I are together again about in another week. We'll be doing another 2 weeks, we'll be doing another webinar, and we're going to be kayaking Portugal's River of Wine together.
Another wine trip. That's great.
Yeah. So that'll be great. All right. Well, thanks again. And with that, we'll say good day and conclude our webinar. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.